Hey Andy and Janet, just wanted to walk you through the whole listing analysis so we can have a good understanding of exactly where I get the value from on your house. I looked at my old analysis. It was pretty much right on, except I had to add that other square footage in, which brings the price per square foot down, but brings the amount that I can sell it for up overall. So here is our subject property. You can see it had it as 1,200 square feet. Now we know that is not actually right because the upstairs is finished. So let me back on up here. You'll see they had measured it at 1856 the last time it was measured and the upstairs was finished. I can do it and one more measure on that, but that's the number we will plan on going with. The measure I would do is a different method than they do for the tax record. If it comes out higher, that's good. I just have to cite that method, but I don't think a few square feet is going to matter because we have such a discrepancy in what a house will sell for based on its size. So I'll explain that in a second. But going through here, this is our comparable sales. I'm going to hover over this, and an active I just threw in there to show you. You can see that this is a really small house, and they're trying to get 155. I mean, I hope they get it, but it's not likely. The price per square foot is too high. But here's our actual sales that the appraiser is going to be using. You've got this small house at 109 a square foot, 96 a square foot for a larger house, but still not as big as yours. And then we've got one that's about 200 square feet larger, and they get 74. So you see there's a huge drop of nearly $20 a square foot for the larger house. They call that inversion. A larger house doesn't sell for the same price per square foot that a small house does, because the building of the outside of the house is a huge expense. So the smaller you build it, the more expensive it is, price per square foot. And we go to this one right here, we saw it sold for 62 a square foot. Now, first thing I do, now this one's even larger, 26 square feet. Now this one is almost too far to be considered a comp. So these two I'm hanging on to real tight here. It's 96 and 74 square foot. These are all in decent shape. The only one that was not in decent shape, I already dropped that from my analysis, so you don't see it here. So given that, if I took the average between 79 and 96 a square foot, you'd be at $87 a square foot would be your list price on your home. Both of these two comps, your house being square in the middle, I think it would be realistic that we could take the mean, the middle number there. Okay, so here is the next part of the analysis that we do. Now, I have to preface this by saying this has no bearing on appraisals or what we can get for your house, but it helps us understand the market and know when we have to and when we can possibly push to get a higher price per square foot or when we need to back down. And since the market's going up, usually that means how far we can push outside of our cold hard. So the next approach I took here is to look at what if you had $200,000 to spend, you wanted to be in Mount Juliet, what could you get for your money? So as we're going through here, you see that if I had 200, and this is I'm throwing the net pretty wide here, you got a 1,300 square foot house, a 1,700 square foot house, a 1,900 square foot house, but you see the price is really high. So as we get down lower, let's just say I'm going to go ahead and tilt my cards and tell you you're going to probably be in this high 160s, low 170s number. So if we get down to here, you'll see that we've got an 1,800 square foot house that already has a contract. 1,200 doesn't represent a very good value. If you had 180 to spend, most people would want more house. Then you got another one here that doesn't have a contract, 1,800 square foot at 180. Tells me that we'd be hard pressed to get a contract at 180. Got this right here on Curd Road, 1,700 square feet for 174. We don't know what they're under contract for. That could be a good comp for us. We just don't know yet. 174 again, and that's a tiny little house. So what you basically see is that if you want to get a lot for your money, you don't have a whole lot. Once we get down to 160, you just see you're looking at little bitty houses. Here's one that's halfway comparable, but still doesn't have 4 bedrooms. So that tells me that we've got a great little niche, that people who have to have 4 bedrooms will be looking at this. So we go to, what if you had to have 4 bedrooms and 3 baths? What would you be looking for? So if you wanted to be in Mount Juliet and you had to have the 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, and what I did here is just a minimum of 4 bedrooms and 3 baths. You see that the first house starts at this 160. It's actually in your neighborhood. That's not a favorable comp for us. So we hope that that one just really never sells, because that's going to come on the market and hurt us, because they're only asking $60 a square foot. This one right here is at 209, 239. These aren't going to be the same people who can afford our house, and then it goes from there. So basically, we can, if it wasn't for this one, we would have an awesome niche. But as so what I do is I click through and look at these other ones that are competition, and what you see here is that we have a short sale. So this one's pretty rough. Now, the reason I still don't want this to record is appraisers don't like to make a lot of adjustments. So even though this house is not in the condition that your house is in, if the appraiser doesn't make the adjustments needed to bring this down to, bring it equal to your house, it's really going to hurt us. So now let's look at the final analysis here. Most important part about this is I always have to keep my clients to make sure that they're grounded in reality. Because I want to get as much money as we can possibly get for this house. But I need you to remember this first part of the analysis. It's the most important part. So we can make as much money as we can, but we know where the ground is. So in reality, your house is worth $179 to $96 a square foot. Now obviously that's a pretty big spread. If your neighborhood was larger, I could narrow that down a little bit more by condition and whatnot, but those were very similar condition. The one at 79 a square foot did have carpet downstairs, so I'm hoping that played into it, but it would only make about maybe a $10,000 adjustment, which would be great. But again, appraisers will go back and look at the photos, and that's about it. We really need those hard numbers. And so if I took the mean between those two numbers and then multiplied it by your square footage, we end up with 87 a square foot, or making your house sell for about 162 a square foot. So I don't like to move beyond there until that's really sunk in. But now we want to get to what is our best case scenario. How much can I possibly get for this house? I'm going to call this Fantasyland. So with Fantasyland, basically we know the inventory is sparse and we know the house is bringing an incredible value for larger families. Inventory is only going to get worse as the holidays come up, and so that's why it is good that you're listing your house now. We don't have to negotiate as much. A lot of people think that listing a house during the holidays is bad. It's actually a really great thing, because we may not be able to get more money because we have the appraisers, but we'll be able to negotiate harder because there's not going to be as much competition. So if I do stretch the comparables and say, the appraiser is going to take note of the fact that other one was carpet, etc., etc., I cannot guarantee he's going to see it my way, or that I'll even have an opportunity to argue for my numbers. So if we are able to do that, we'd be looking at a marketing price around, and this would be best case scenario again, of $174.9. If I were to multiply it times the 96 a square foot, it would actually have brought me to just under 180. However, I am 100% certain we can't get that price. The reason why is the one that sold at 96 a square foot, we would have to then have two other comparables for the appraisal purpose. And any comparables that I have in this exact area, at least one of them will have to come from the Somerset neighborhood, which will bring it down. So I'm hoping that, possibly if we come out at 174.9, it represents a good enough value that we could get multiple contracts at the beginning and lock one of them down at list price. We shouldn't have to negotiate too far with list price when we price right in our comps, but obviously I'm not doing that. $12,000 above comps. So my suggested marketing price is a kind of a Fantasyland price of 174.9. After that, we may be having to negotiate down, and I would say the floor to that would be 162, which is just the base reality, and I feel pretty confident that we wouldn't have to go below that, just because of when you're listing and how the market is right now. And I hope I won't be eating those words, but you may have to do a lot of little repairs and whatnot to get above the 162, but my plan is to do that. So let me know what you think, and I am ready to go. All I need to do is stick a sign in the yard in the lockbox. Holly has been on me all weekend to finish this analysis because she's already done all the paperwork and whatnot. So if you have any questions, give me a call and we can talk through that. Again, I want to mark it at 174.9, knowing that we might have to negotiate down to 162, but don't want to go below that. Thanks.